That's one element of how the ego shows up. The ego is basically the thing that encourages your old programming, that encourages your survival mechanism. Think of it as a bodyguard who was there for you when you first learned your survival mechanisms that never wants to leave. So now you have the same programs, the same mechanisms, and when you're trying to leave this, the bodyguard's like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, I think you might still find danger here. I think there's something going to be scary again. So you're like, oh shit, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. Let me just go back to what was familiar. So to be able to get the change, you have to kind of silence the ego. You have to disarm the bodyguard. That's what I call it, disarming the ego or silencing the ego. So, how do you do that? For different people, it's different things, but you hit on one huge component, which is that isolation, that loneliness. So, what we do is we take people who are going through their problems, and most of us, and this is the crazy part of my work, you can always track down the problems to three major causes: rejection, abandonment, and invalidation. So, we get everybody who wants to do our work in different batches, and we put them in a group together. We call this a container. In our program called the Gauntlet, we do this where we put them in a container where for 8 weeks, these are the fixed people that you're going to journey with in this healing process. Nobody goes in, nobody goes out. And in the same process during that period of time, we get them to work with each other 3 times a week, apart from working with us, where in the psychological prompts we give them, they get to reflect on each other's lives, they reflect on what they're going through, they reflect on how this is affecting them. Now, what this does that they don't realize is this makes them feel a sense of belonging while they're doing the hard work, which is why with one on one, sometimes it's so challenging because you're doing this, you take this work from your therapist, you go to try and apply into your life, and suddenly there's so much bloody judgment from your mom. They're like, you don't come back and see me anymore, you don't call me on the holidays, or you don't know how to really raise your kid, or you don't listen to me and what I'm saying. Whereas when you're in a group and you share these things, someone else is like, yeah, I'm going through this. I'm like, wow, you're also going through this? So that means I'm not alone. I'm not a weirdo for like wanting to stop drinking and going to the pub. Someone else is like, no, me too. So they're like, okay, let's create a healthier habit. How about we create like meetings on a Thursday night where we get to talk about what we're doing? Maybe we have a painting class on a Saturday for us men, even though, we're not encouraged to be playful or musical or artsy. We now have
Mhm.
this space where we can get this like, more feminine side out of us that allows us to feel more emotionally grounded and regulated. You create the safety in the process, and naturally it'll disarm that ego that's preventing people from changing. And when you do that, people are more excited to want to do this. And in fact, when this ends, they unconsciously now know, you know what, I've had a space where I've had people who accept me and love me while I'm going through this journey. That is the kind of space that I need to keep attracting now in my life, and no longer the old space. So they start looking for partners who now are more accepting and open and understand them more. They start changing their conversation with their parents. They stop taking part in like the old, unconscious type of conversations where they're fighting back and forth, and their whole life starts to evolve.
Damn, I can understand how you're you're such a good coach because you just have this way of it. It sinks in, you absorb it and understand it,